What's going on, everyone? When the week first started, we knew it was going to be a crazy one, and it definitely has been so far. And tomorrow is actually set to be one of the most exciting days of the entire week, as we have some crucial inflation data set to release. But before we can start talking about tomorrow, we have to talk about what happened today, and of course we have to check in on the craziness with stocks like GameStop, AMC, and a handful of others. Jerome Powell also spoke today, and the market is very close to its all-time high. Around 63% of stocks in the S&P 500 finished in the green today, so we have a lot to talk about, and especially heading into tomorrow, there's a lot of craziness happening right now. So stick around all the way until the end, and Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, we always talk about these big tech stocks having such a big influence on the market, and you can see that while today these big tech stocks like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Apple, Nvidia, like the Mag 7, even Tesla, they weren't up too much, right? Like they were up, they were green, but they weren't like super explosive or anything by any means. But whenever you go and you look at the QQQ and the SPY, they definitely had pretty solid moves, especially towards the end of day with SPY getting up towards 523.80. That was a pretty good thing to see, and it's getting pretty close to the all-time high. If we go out to the hourly chart and we actually go to the true all-time high, some people don't count pre-market or after hours as the all-time high, but looking at it right here, it says the high is 525.78 on TradingView. So that is what I'm going to be watching here as the all-time high starts to approach, Mike, and I would not be surprised if we got there tomorrow. All that we really need is a pretty solid 524 break, and we'll be right there. So I'm definitely keeping my eyes on the SPY and on the overall market, but of course everybody's here for GameStop and AMC, right? This is really where the action was today. GameStop itself was up a lot. AMC ended up exploding quite a bit this morning as well, but whenever I go from close yesterday to the open today, this stock ended up going up 126%, like right around open, maybe 113%, depending where you look. And at highs in pre-market, it was up 164%. So to say that the volatility is there on GameStop is an understatement, right? There is so much volatility, Mike. And I will say this, the implied volatility on the options chain is almost scary right now.
No doubt, but it's like when you look at GameStop and AMC right now, a lot of the movement, at least today, was in pre-market. So it's like all of the action, like during normal trading hours, was not only negative, but it was also very choppy and sporadic because there were more halts on GameStop and AMC today then I could literally count. Like we have the list right here. You can just see it's halt after halt after halt, like all day long basically. And that is a risk because it's like when you have a stock that is, ripping to the upside, if it just gets halted every time, that's like it takes a lot of like the momentum away.
It really does. I know that halts are there for a reason and circuit breakers are in the market for a certain reason. And, if you have a good argument against this, let me know in the comments. But I think that with some of these stocks like GameStop and AMC, it would be a lot better if there weren't halts, right? Like I think that it would be awesome to actually see these things start to run and to see some pretty good moves out of them. So I don't know, Mike, there's been a lot of debate about the halts over the past couple days, especially with them happening so much. But just to see that many halts this morning, it was very annoying. Like if you were on a 1-minute chart and you were watching GameStop at open, you can actually see a lot of these spots where it's where the halts were happening, right? Because there were these big gaps on the chart and the stock would just start to go crazy as soon as it unhalted, and then it would halt again right away. So there's really no opportunity with it. And hopefully tomorrow, though, we can get more good momentum while the market's open. Like you said, with all the moves in pre-market, it's not the best thing to see right now. So just be very careful with these stocks. They are pretty risky at the end of the day. And personally, Mike, I just still stick to the game plan on normal stocks like Apple and TSM and others.
One of my biggest problems with GameStop and AMC right now is like we saw news that came out this morning about how AMC just completed a $250 million stock sale. So basically, as the stock was running up, the company itself was selling shares onto the open market and diluting the stock. So it's like you are like, if you're like, let's say bullish on AMC, it's like, yes, you want the stock to go up, but at the same time, not only do you have all of these halts working against you, but you also have the company itself selling shares and diluting you. So it's like that's not something you want to see. And if you could see, based on the CNBC article, that AMC sold shares at an average price of $3.45, you can bet if the stock continues to run higher, let's say to $15 a share, they're going to sell more. So that is one thing that is a real risk, and it's worth keeping in mind. As always, when you have a crazy stock like GameStop and AMC, there is opportunity with these stocks, and there's a lot of reward potential, but there's just a ridiculous amount of risk that comes with them. So obviously, only trade these stocks if you can handle the heat.
Man, Mike, I mean, it's almost like you need to dip into your casino fund, right? Like if you're going to end up playing these, like they're very risky, but at the end of the day, you can catch pretty good moves intraday. I saw a lot of good different plays and, a lot of good profits over the past couple days, but just realize, guys, that especially when these stocks start to slow down again, it will, I think, end up making the majority of people who play these end up losing. So just keep that in mind over the next couple days. And Mike, I know that we had a interesting day with GameStop and AMC and everything, of course, and we have to mention the man, the myth, the legend, Jerome Powell again, right? He was actually speaking today, and it looks like that the Federal Reserve thinks that inflation is too high right now, and it's a little bit higher than they expected. So they're actually looking to keep rates steady for longer. I don't know, Mike. Didn't sound very good for the market today, but the overall market kind of brushed it off towards the end of the day.
Yeah, so it's not the best news ever, but at the same time, it's certainly not like horrible news. And like you said, the market just marched higher anyways. And as we talk about inflation, we have to definitely hit on the crucial CPI report that will be released 1 hour before market open tomorrow. So basically, 1 hour before market open, inflation data will release, and this almost always moves the market in a very big way. Inflation data has been one of the most important data points over the past couple of years. Inflation is still a lot higher than the government wants it to be, and they're working to get it lower, and it has been going lower, but the job has not been finished just yet. So basically, if we see inflation data come in a lot hotter than expected, that would be a pretty big warning sign. So just keep that in mind for tomorrow. But as always with inflation data releases, it's more so about reacting to the price action rather than trying to predict what might happen if the data comes in at a certain level. So going into tomorrow, it's all going to be about reacting to the flows.
Yeah, and good thing we can't trade options in pre-market, Mike, or else there'd be a lot of people trying it out there on it, I'm sure. But yeah, looking at the SPY for tomorrow, I mean, we're right by the all-time highs. Let's say that data comes in good and inflation ends up dropping a lot or something. That might be what the market needs here to get back to those all-time highs and maybe even try to make new ones. So that could be a big revelation tomorrow if that happens. If not, of course, then we'll have to adjust and probably look at stocks to the downside. I know today was pretty good for tech. Going back to the heat map for a second, it was pretty green across the board. A lot of the retailers and stuff were red, but whenever you look at the banks and tech, it was pretty good.
Yeah, very good. So good stuff there. And one stock that it definitely wasn't the best for today, it was Alibaba. So they reported earnings and they fell by around 6%. And while that's not necessarily a great sign to see, the stock is still up a good amount over the past couple weeks. But I just wanted to check in on this one because it is a stock that's been moving up in a pretty strong way over the past couple weeks and months. We have been talking about it quite a bit, so it's worth following up on. There's no point in just talking about stocks when they're in the green.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say this, stocks, they go through these setups and they go through these patterns and they're not just going to go up all the time, right? Especially with China stocks like Baba, there's going to be ebbs and flows. It happens to every single company. The thing that I really like today with Baba is its low of day is actually pretty big support, right around $78. You can see that this stock has had a lot of good reactions off of this area. So I would assume that there's a lot of buyers at that area considering how good it held and came back up today. So as long as 78 keeps holding in the short term, at least on a short-term basis, that is a really good sign. But looking at the rest of the earnings for the week, Mike, we do have Cisco tomorrow in after hours. That's going to be a pretty big report, one of the biggest ones of the week, in my opinion. And then Thursday, we have Walmart and pre-market. That's my favorite earnings report. And then Baidu and JD. So we do have quite a bit here to end the week still.
All right, sounds good. Well, with that being said, let's talk about some actual setups and predictions for tomorrow. So, a stock I'm watching pretty closely is KTOS, and we talked about this stock a decent amount over the past couple of weeks. There was a recent big money play on it, and that one, and the stock has been uptrending, which is good to see. And I know we hit on this one a little bit last week as well, but I'm continuing to watch this one to the upside. The big money trade, which is the 20 strike call options for July 19th, is now in the money, which is great to see. The longer it stays in the money, the better it becomes. But I do really like the price action with this stock, and I like the big money trade associated with it as well. So I will continue to watch it in a bullish way going forward, but I will also say it's not specifically a play for tomorrow. This stock, doesn't necessarily have like the craziest movement on a day-to-day basis, but it does have some pretty good trends over the course of multiple days to even multiple weeks.
Yeah, I really like this one, Mike. Ever since the big money play came out, it started to chop around at first, and then ever since they started to see some good news come in, they've been starting to do very well in the short term. I really like that price action, and on the daily, they're actually holding up very well, putting pressure on those recent highs, so that'll be awesome to see a good breakout here at this $20 resistance. I'll keep my eyes on it for the next couple days. With my first play, I'm looking at TSM for a continuation tomorrow. This stock is blasting to the upside, and I'm not looking for this one to go up 10% or anything like that, but I could see another good continuation like we did today. If we continue to see good bullish activity out of the market and out of these chip stocks, TSM is one that could really start to go. So I like it quite a bit. It's up 3.78%, Mike. There's a lot of good volatility and momentum on the chart. I will say on a longer term basis, a lot of these chip stocks are still pretty overextended. I would say TSM is still overextended, but in a short term basis for a quick intraday scalp, that's where I really like the opportunities here.
All right, sounds good. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is WBA, and we talked about this one a little bit in yesterday's video. Basically, WBA is very oversold. It has some pretty strong support around the $17 area, and the stock is starting to move in a way that is above average for it. If we go to an intraday chart on this one, you could see that it had a phenomenal move right from open yesterday, and it has been holding its ground in a pretty strong way. So I'm going to continue to watch this one in a bullish way going forward. Kind of like KTOS, while I will be watching it in a bullish way for tomorrow, I would not be all that surprised if it took a couple days to move higher. But either way, it's on my radar.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit as well. I'll definitely keep it on the radar. I like the way it's consolidating here. I feel like it's holding its ground very well, so I'll definitely watch it for a continuation. With my final play, I'm looking at DraftKings, which is Old Faithful for me. Hopefully TLT doesn't think I'm cheating on it, though, with here, with these Old Faithful comments. But I'm going to go ahead and look at DraftKings at the upside tomorrow. I really like the price action today. It got back towards the high around close. If it breaks 44.40, then go ahead and eye up a good move to the upside. The calls could be pretty good, depending on the pricing in the morning. But overall, I'll be looking at this one for breakout potential past 44.40. So go ahead and eye up DraftKings. When you go to the daily chart, it had been dipping, but it's starting to come back up off that dip a bit. And I could see it retesting 45 in the short term.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's jump right into today's momentum plays. And with the first one, we have Zoom to the upside.
Yeah, ticker symbol ZM. They've been consolidating for the past couple weeks, but over the past 2 days, they've been really coming back to these highs. If they can break above 64, then look at some good breakout opportunities.
All right. With the next one, we have GDX, also to the upside.
Yeah, the gold mining ETF, I love the way they closed today. There's a big resistance right here around 35.45. So I would say if they break 35.50, then go ahead and look at momentum up.
All right, and then with the last one, we have Netflix to the downside.
Netflix, yeah, that's a pretty crazy one here in the short term. If they can break under 608.50, then go ahead and look at a good play to the downside here. I do like that as a pretty awesome support.
All right, so we have Netflix for a potential move lower, and then we have GDX and Zoom for potential moves higher. Either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The more consistent and powerful the price action is, the better. But now that the momentum plays are out of the way, let's jump right into today's $956,000 big money trade of the day. And we are looking at ticker symbol XLE. So XLE is basically a bunch of energy-related stocks all under one ETF. And more specifically, the big money put $956,000 into the 95 strike call options that expire on November 15th of 2024. We can see these call options are just slightly out of the money. They have a good amount of time to them. And energy as a whole has been doing pretty well this year. And I've also seen a good amount of bullish flows with specific energy stocks in the short term as well, which is great to see. I really like how these call options are close to the money and how it has a decent amount of, how they have a decent amount of time to them. But either way, I think the setup definitely has potential, but only if it's given the time it needs. You know, these options have all the way out until the middle of November. If someone is looking to play XLE to the upside tomorrow, that is a completely different setup than what the big money is trading here. So there's opportunity, but you have to give it the time it needs. And in a perfect world, I would love for this stock to stay above like that $92 area. If it did break below that, I would be a little bit concerned, but it really just depends on, what's happening with energy stocks at the time.
Yeah, I actually really like that $92 area quite a bit as well. That was actually a pretty big area of resistance, anywhere from like 92 to 93 in the past. We've seen a lot of huge moves with XLE off of that resistance. So now that might actually act as pretty good support around here. So I'll definitely be watching this big money play closely. The last time there was a big money play on XLE, Mike, they almost had a perfect entry on like the one red day on the way up, right? They had a pretty good entry, though. That was a nice one, and that stock ended up exploding right after that. So I'll definitely have my eyes on this one. Now, keep in mind, guys, just because the last one did well, that doesn't mean to go all into this one or anything. But, the big money's been popping off on a lot of these plays lately. Of course, there's a couple losers mixed in here and there, but I will say overall, I've been really enjoying them, Mike, especially like the China stock ones and the energy ones, and even like gold and silver and the metals. They've been pretty hot too.
I really like the Intel one as well because you had them getting in not only at a pretty good price, but it was also a pretty heavy dollar amount, and the CEO was buying shares at the same time. So I really like the risk reward there, and it's still at a good level. But yeah, I agree with you for sure. There's definitely been a handful of good ones lately, and I'm excited to see how they continue to play out throughout the rest of the year because a lot of the plays have, at minimum a couple months left worth of time as well. So either way, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, me too. And overall, Mike, like whenever you start to look at big money plays, I know a lot of people are like, well, hey, how should I play it? Should I follow it exactly? I always try to follow it as close as I can. Like Mike says, you got to give these things the time that they need, guys. If you're trying to play, like, let's say XLE, and you're trying to get out within a couple days or a couple weeks, that's really not the strategy, right? Like you got to stick to the right strikes. You got to stick to the right time. And overall, that's really the best way to play it. Maybe you could go to maybe you could adjust the strikes a little bit, but for the most part, you want to stick pretty close to them.
All right. Well, Tom, as we look at the market right now, as we said closer to the beginning of the video, the market is right at all-time highs. We have AMC and GME going crazy. Crucial inflation data will be released tomorrow before open. So we are set for an exciting day tomorrow. So I really want to stress that let's trade in a smart, disciplined way with long-term sustainable habits. I know it's tempting to load up on some out-of-the-money call options with GME and AMC right now, but let's trade in a smart way and let's follow the money and respect our stop losses among all of the other smart trading habits that go along with a successful trading system as a whole. But one thing I do want to say is that if you're new to the channel and you like our videos, consider smashing that subscribe button to get our videos recommended to you more often. We post all the time and we cover everything you have to know about about the market in like 20 to 25 minutes or less. So consider joining the Stocked Up crew. And we also want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Juice15 in the Stocked Up trading floor. They had a great post today in the Profits channel, and they're just a great member overall. So huge shout out to Juice15. Thanks for being a great member of the community. But besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's have a great day in the market tomorrow.